Rights to freedom is dead. We're coming to get our check.
Black first, my brothers and my sisters. Welcome to the Afro Elite YouTube channel. I am your host, Afro Elite. Before we get started, please make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and leave a thumbs up because all of that helps the reach and the growth of the channel. We're on our way to 10K. Thank you guys very much for everything that you do. Now, we're in this movement for reparations. The reparations movement is growing, is becoming more noticeable, is becoming more popular, is becoming more talked about. And because of these things becoming more talked about, and because of task force now being formed about reparations, you're having recent polls about reparations. And so in the city of California, there was a poll conducted which showed that most of the people, most of the voters in California were opposed to slavery reparations. So we're going to really look into this. We're going to see what's going on. In my personal opinion, before we even start, there should be no poll. There's no poll when it comes to sending money to Ukraine. There's no poll when it comes to anything else. But when it comes to slavery reparations, everybody, who even the ones who don't qualify, get to vote on a poll. But we're going to look into that, and then we're going to see. Most California voters oppose cash reparations for slavery, poll finds. A majority of California voters oppose making cash payments as a form of compensation for residents of the state who were the descendants of enslaved African Americans, according to the new poll from the University of California, Berkeley. Now, when they say African Americans, we would use foundational Black Americans, but that's who they're referring to when they say descendants of African Americans. They're specifically referring to descendants of Black people who are descendants from chattel slavery. The findings suggest a tough political road ahead for the effort to make California the first state in the nation to adopt a cash reparations program to atone for slavery's legacy. The poll of more than 6,000 registered voters found that only 23% supported cash reparations, compared to 59% who said they opposed them and 13% who said they had no opinion. Now, to break that down in numbers, when they said 23% approved of it, supported it, that is 1,380 people out of the 6,000. Now, out of the people who opposed it, it was 3,540 people who opposed it. And then out of the people who said that they don't have an opinion, it's 780 people. So that's the numbers, not just the percent, but that's the numbers of the people too. Now, an important thing to note that this is in California, which is a blue state. So most of these people who are opposing or say they don't have an opinion, which is damn near opposing, you might as well oppose. If you're saying I don't have an opinion, you just don't want to say no, but you don't agree with yes. But the thing is that most of these people are registered Democrats. These are people who are registered Democrats. So the Democratic Party does not want to support reparations and push reparations, nor do the voters. So when people act like racism is only on the Republican side and only on the Republican voters, no. The Democratic voters, these quote unquote liberal voters, don't agree with reparations, oppose reparations. So we have to remember that. It continues to say, quote, while a majority of California voters believe that Black Americans continue to be affected by the legacy of slavery, our poll is showing that there is no real strong support for cash reparations to deal with the situation, said Mark DiCamillo, director of the Berkeley IGS poll. Among racial groups, Black voters were the only ones to support cash payments by a majority. So keep that in mind. Black voters were the only ones. That means that this Black and brown, people of color, minority coalition, that's not going anywhere, because most of these brown people that be hanging out with the Black people, when you ask them about reparations, they'll say no. And the Asians too, they'll say no. So we got to stop with using the word minority, people of color, all of that stuff. Okay, because there's only when you ask for specific things for Black people like reparations, only Black people say yes in a majority. All of these other people be all like, can I get some? Oh, no? Well, I will say no then. That's how everybody else thinks about it. It continues to say Republicans almost unanimously opposed them, while Democrats split almost evenly on the question. How? Okay, so that's I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't based off of that poll because they don't really break it up between Democrats and Republicans. But the thing is that it's California. So California is a blue state. These are going to be people who are mostly going to be Democrats. These are people who are mostly going to be Democrats. Then it continues to say, cash reparations have long been a sticking point. Cash payments are a hallmark in the long list of recommendations that a state task force on reparations recently made to California lawmakers, following 2 years of conductive research, collecting testimony, and hosting public hearings across the state. The task force, formed by the legislature with the support of Governor Gavin Newsom, also recommended tax breaks, help with health care, free tuition, and other programs to help Black Californians overcome disparities in wealth, health, and education that the task force said were some of the lingering effects of slavery and its racist legacy. Look, all of this, we recommend tax breaks, we recommend free help with healthcare. They're not even saying free healthcare, help with healthcare, whatever that means, free tuition. Listen, we don't do none of that. None of that stuff do we do at all, okay? If you want to give something on top of cutting the check, oh, don't get me wrong, I'll accept that. I'll accept that when you cut the check first. Anything else that comes after that you want to give, oh, the more the merrier. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to be like, well, we can't really cut the check, but how about this scholarship though? No. All of that, the scholarship, so you can go to school, have to work to get a degree, and then use that degree to work at a company to make white people more money. No. Help with healthcare. What does that mean? Tax breaks. When you have Black people who are impoverished, tax breaks are not really going to help them like that. These things or other programs. What are other programs? No, cut the check. We don't want no other programs. At least before cutting the check, you can cut the check and then we can talk about any and every other program that you'd like to recommend. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to substitute the check that belongs to us with some tax breaks or help, quote unquote, with health care. It continues to say, the two members of the task force, who are also state lawmakers, Senator Stephen Bradford and Assemblyman Reggie Jones Sawyer, both Democrat representing Los Angeles, said it would be up to them to turn the recommendations into law. But both have since tried to moderate the public's expectations about cash payments. What does that mean, moderate the public's expectations about cash payments? To me, this is sounding like that's saying like, well, cash, that's a little asking for much. That's a little high. I don't know what we can do that. But what we can do, man, don't you want to go back to school and get a degree? We can help you out with that. That's what it sounded like to me, which we're not buying. We're not buying. If we were buying that, they would love to sell it to us. But the fact that we're in this space right now, they're upset about that because we're not buying anything else. It continues to say, in an interview on Monday following the release of the new poll, Jones Sawyer stopped short of saying he would seek to include cash in the bill he and Bradford are aiming to introduce early next year. Look, you say include, no. Cash needs to be the foundation of everything. If there's no cash, there's no deal. There's no cash, there is no deal. We are not sitting at the table and be all like, well, we're going to try to include this, but we do have this health care. No, the answer is no. It continues to say, quote, reparations is more than just cash payments, Jones Sawyer said. There is a plethora of things in that report that we need to get through. Listen. When they say reparations is more than just cash, okay, I would agree with that. After you give the cash, that's the only thing. Would you say a house is more than just the foundation to the house? Yes, a house is much more than just the foundation. But if you don't have the foundation to the house, you don't have a house. So we're not going to play that game where they say, well, it's more than just cash. Well, cut the cash then. Because what you're trying to do, what they try to do is they try to focus and highlight the importance of other things so they can derail from the cash. Be all like, well, let's be honest, education is just so important, and there's so much disparities with education and college and getting a degree and student loan debt, and you have to focus on that too. So we'll put the cash in the back burner. We're not going to say no to it, but we'll give that a back seat for now, and we'll just focus on scholarships and free tuition and things like that, and books and pencils and pens and crayons and all that stuff. How about that, guys? No. The answer is no. Continues to say, cash payment from government coffers have always been controversial, and one reason the reparations movement has gained little traction nationally. To be totally honest, let's be honest. The reparations movement has gained a lot of traction. Okay, not the traction it should have, but we've never seen this much traction for reparations nationally. Reparations is being discussed nationally for the first time really ever, to be very honest with you. Not just on the federal government, on the state government. So that what they're trying to do is they'd be all like, man, if more people would be, supportive of it if it wasn't for cash, you know what I'm saying? If y'all would just take free healthcare, we could really pass this thing out, you know what I'm saying? It's the cash that's holding you back. You got to drop it. No. It continues to say, the California Reparations Task Force created a formula for calculating individual payments, which for some people would ascend upwards of $1 million. California is an important test case. Even so, many advocates have put their hope in California's effort to breathe new life into the reparations movement, betting that success in California could motivate other states to adopt their own programs. Quote, California is an important test case, said Taishi Natia. I believe that's how it's pronounced. If I'm mispronouncing it, I'm not meaning to. A political scientist at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, who has conducted national polling for public support for reparations. If it does pass, I think it provides the momentum for the reparations movement that it has been looking for 200 plus years. But if it doesn't pass, it provides momentum for those who oppose reparations to make the case that in a state as progressive as California, if you can't pass reparations, the likelihood of passing this at the national level is very low, and in other states are also very low. Natika said the Berkeley polling's findings on California voters mirror his own polling of Americans nationally. Quote, this is a relatively unpopular policy, and that has been the case for the history of the United States, he said, adding that, like the California poll, Americans nationally who oppose cash payments cite the cost to taxpayers, but a belief that African Americans don't deserve them. They believe that debt died with their enslaved ancestors. Supporters say education is key. Assemblyman Reggie Jones Sawyer said that low public support reflected in the Berkeley poll was not a surprise. Quote, we always expected we would have an education challenge, he said. The California Reparations Task Force recommendations were accompanied by roughly 1,100 pages of evidence of slavery's ongoing impact on Black Californians, even though California was never a slave state. Well, actually, California kind of was a slave state, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like plantations and everything, but during the gold rush, there would be slave masters who would take their slaves to California to get gold. And the thing is that you couldn't run away from California because you couldn't really testify in California. A black person couldn't testify against a white person in California. So California was like a low-key slave state. So let's not play that game where it wasn't a slave state, because it kind of was. Continuing, now Jones Sawyer said his colleagues in the Legislative Black Caucus are raising money for an educational program that condenses the report's findings and makes it digestible for the general public. Okay, now y'all raising money to tell white folks how racism is affecting black people. This sounds like a finesse. This sounds like a finesse because we don't have to do this when it comes to anybody else getting money. But let's continue. Grassroots groups across the state, from Oakland to East Palo Alto to San Diego, were also working to educate their communities about the task force work in the effort to turn public sentiment in favor for reparations. Kanisha Jones Muhammad, the vice chair of the Los Angeles, California Advisory Commission, says she advocates nationally in support of reparations as president of the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants, which we would say Foundational Black Americans, but okay, let's not argue with semantics. It continues to say, and in that role is trying to raise money for the oral history and testimonial project that would convey slavery's ongoing impact on Black Americans today. Okay, no, I'm gonna save my opinion for after I get done reading this, but already thumbs down, two thumbs down on this, cause hell no. Continuing, she was inspired, she said, by the work that Japanese Americans did to educate the public about their internment during World War II as part of their successful 1980s campaign for reparations. Let me ask you this. Did they need several polls and they were all like, okay, well, we can't pass reparations until majority of the state agrees on that? No. These other people, is interesting that you brought up the Japanese because these other people didn't need all those polls. These other people didn't need all that stuff. They didn't. None of these other people. Not even just saying the Japanese. But let's continue. It says, we need to really show that these are lived experiences with the people who are still alive, Jones Muhammad said, and that this is a human story and not a budgetary story. But somehow I feel like the human factor gets significantly left out of these discussions and these polls. Now, like I said before, the letter crew, they don't need a poll and they get legislation specifically for them. The small hat community specifically for them. The Asian community specifically for them. All these other groups of people, legislation specifically for them. There's not a single poll in America asking, well, we need to know what the voters think about Biden and the Democratic Party sending money to Ukraine. Not a single poll about that. Not a single poll about all these illegal aliens coming to these cities. Not a single poll about that. They don't care what the people think. They're like, well, we're the government. We can do whatever we say we want to do, and there's nobody who can stop us. That's how they get when it comes to everything else that they really want to push. If there's a poll, they be all like, well, most people don't do it, but we're progressive anyway, so we're just going to do it anyway. That's how they do with everybody else. Only when it comes to our reparations, only when it comes to slavery is it, well, hold on now, before we give you guys the money that you guys deserve, we got to get all these other people. We got to get all these other people's opinion. And if they say yes, then it's a yes. If they say no, unfortunately, we can't do it. They only do that when it comes to us. For an example, just picture this. That's like you have a bank account, and for a mistake that was made by the bank, you lose all your money. They made some type of digital error, all your money is gone. Now they're supposed to give you your money back because they took it from you. They're supposed to give it back to you. And you go to the bank teller and you're like, okay, well, you know what? I need my money back. And they all like, yeah, we know we owe you money. We do. But before we give you your money back, we got to get everybody else who has an account with us. We're going to ask their opinion. And if they say yes, we can give it to you. If they say no, we don't give it to you. That's the same principle in this situation here. All these other people, they don't deserve the right to have a vote. They don't deserve the right to have a poll. Okay. Our freedom, our liberation, our rights are not up for a poll because they don't have the right to say no. But we're not done. We're not done at all. If you thought that was it, it's not. Because now the Congressional Black Caucus has decided to step in the ring for the purpose of educating the people who say they're opposed to reparations in an attempt to sway them on reparations. So let's look into that. Black lawmakers in California pushed to overcome resistance on reparations. The California Congressional Black Caucus is gearing up to launch a statewide campaign to educate its citizens on the critical nature of reparations for Black people, including cash payments for its harms of slavery. This comes on the heels of the University of California Berkeley poll released this week that shows most Californians oppose Black residents receiving any financial compensation as part of reparations recommendations from the state assembly. Among all of those who responded, 59% rejected the idea of cash payments to Black descendants of slavery in the state. Meanwhile, 76% of Black respondents were in favor of cash payments, and 66% of white voters were opposed to Black Californians receiving money. All right? Now, these are the liberals, y'all. These are the liberals. Okay, just keep that in mind, because when you ask about reparations, you can't find the difference between a liberal and a conservative. You can't find that. It continues to say, Democrats are more likely to support cash reparations than Republicans. Really? Is that a fact? Because I can't tell. And those with no party affiliation who strongly oppose. I'm going to be honest. People who say they don't really have a party affiliation, a lot of those people tend to lean more towards the Republicans, if we're going to be honest. They're more issue type voters. They don't really buy the Republicans and the Democrats. They're not loyal. But when you ask in the polls, a lot of the independents in the polls lean more towards the right. So you just keep that in mind. Reginald James Sawyer, a member of the Reparations Task Force, said the results show a lack of knowledge around California's deep involvement in slavery and other forms of racism that devastated Black families. Quote, polls can be skewed because usually enough information isn't given to the people so that they don't have a full understanding of what's going on, Jones Sawyer said. If each individual that they polled had read the 400-page document we did last year, which proved how California was complicit in chattel slavery, and read the 1,100-page document that we printed out last year, which talked about what reparations should be, there's absolutely no way that you would believe that there shouldn't be some type of compensation. Okay, listen, what we're not going to do is we're not going to let these Black Caucus, Congressional Black Caucus members spin this off. White people are just not educated enough to understand how racism is bad and how slavery was bad and how California needs to pay reparations. We're not going to do that. There is no education. Everybody knows this. You don't need a 1,000-page document to show how California was involved in chattel slavery. You can literally in 1 minute teach how California was involved in chattel slavery. You do not need that, okay? If you want to go to have like a video or something, in 5 minutes, you can give the whole history about how California was involved and needs to pay reparations. They know. Here's the thing. These people know. These people don't care. We're not going to give the excuse of, well, they're not racist, they're just ignorant, and it's our job to educate them. No, it's not. It's not our job to educate nobody. First off, that's number one. Number two, they're not ignorant. They don't support reparations because they don't want to support anything for Black people. That's the reason. And another thing, they don't say this stuff when it comes to other communities. When it came to the letter crew, and you guys know what I mean when I say that, when it comes to them, they don't ever say, well, we need a 1,000-page document to teach how homophobia is bad in America. No, they don't say that stuff. When it comes to the small hats, well, we need to talk about, well, first off, before we pass any legislation, because we can't do that, because most people oppose you guys. So we have to teach people, we have to pay money to teach people about the Holocaust and to teach people about anti-Semitism. They don't say none of that stuff when it comes to other groups of people. Only when it comes to us, first off, they even give a poll, an opinion poll, any damn way. When it comes to other groups of people, there's no need to have an opinion poll. But when it comes to us, well, hold on, guys. Before we give you guys your money, well, let's see what other people think about you getting your money. Then, if they say no, then we have to tell them why it's important for you to get your money. And if they say yes, then we can do it. No, the answer is no. To inform the public, Jones Sawyer said the California Black Caucus will begin a fundraising campaign to hire a firm to disseminate, quote, clear and concise and direct messaging about the report. Quote, obviously, most people did not read the preliminary or final report by the task force. People now are trying to debunk those findings. Another hurdle will be educating members of the California Assembly who were expected to sponsor legislation based on the task force 1,000-page report published in June. Y'all doing a lot of damn educating. What are y'all doing? Because everybody around y'all playing the whole man. Nobody's educated. We've been making all these reports 1,000 pages. Nobody read it. Damn. Come on. It continues to say the report covered migrant areas and recommended more than 100 statewide policies to address generations of discrimination and racial disparities. It did not, however, propose a dollar amount owed to people, quote, who were able to demonstrate that they were descendants of either enslaved African American in the United States or a free African American living in the States prior to 1900. Joan Sawyer gave an example that he hopes will ring true to assembly members in the general public. Quote, if you're trying to buy something and then later on you find out that it was stolen property, you wouldn't keep that property. You wouldn't take advantage of it. Well, the labor of African Americans was stolen for centuries. And now we're asking for us to restore our dignity, restore what was taken from us. And any legal system would tell you that this is the appropriate measure that you should take. And I think any American, once they are educated, would understand why it's so important to have reparations. This is starting to really annoy me because most Americans, which was white Americans, most of them did not oppose ending slavery. Most of them oppose us getting civil rights. Most of them oppose reparations. It is not, nor has it ever been, because they are ignorant, because they don't know how important it is. It's not. Now, the analogy that you used, that was a good analogy. That was a good analogy, and that's good to debunk the people who say that we don't deserve anything. But the thing is, they all know we deserve it. Not a single white American does not understand what reparations is, does not understand the importance of it, does not understand that we deserve it. They all do. They all know what would happen when we get it, so that's why they don't want us to get it. Then it continues to say, the lack of dollar figure, however, is a sticking point for many black people. Kathy Adams, president of the Oakland African American chapter of Commerce, drove to Sacramento for a final public hearing at the end of June. She said she left profoundly moved. I listened to those families talk about how generational wealth was taken from them when they had land and property seized by white people for no good reason other than they wanted it, or they didn't want them to have it, Adams said. And it broke my heart. Education about what has happened is critical. I learned so much, and it has reinforced for me the importance of cash reparations in addition to the programs in the report. Okay. This is the Congressional Black Caucus for you, man. These are the people, these are the presidents of these movements and leaders and all that stuff who, if you ask these people, is there a system of white supremacy? These people would say, no, these are really good white folks. They just ignorant. They just don't know what they do. They know not what they do, like the Bible says. No, they do. They very much so do. Then it continues to say, quote, but this is important. This isn't about black people looking for a check, a handout, Adams says. This is bigger than that. The harms of slavery are real. We are dealing with a number of disparities and inequalities in a black community that stem from what was denied or taken from us, our ancestors. We seem to fall at the end of the spectrum every time, in every way. And I think that anybody being a part of a poll saying we should not be financially compensated is wrong. Denise Branch, an anti-racism educator and racial equality consultant, said the poll's results are telling about the attitude towards black people. Quote, the legacy of slavery is still impacting black Americans financially, Branch said. While black people made it possible for many non-black communities to come to America and receive a handout, those same communities believe that America paying is incalculable debt owed to Black Americans would be a handout. We've been saying that for the longest time. That's that Black and Brown coalition for you. They wouldn't be over here getting nothing. The Black and Asian coalition, they wouldn't be over here getting nothing. The Black and all these other people of color coalition wouldn't be able to come over here getting nothing had it not been for our people, and that they come over here eating off the backs of our people, piggybacking off of the struggles of our people, leapfrogging off of the struggles of our people, tethering off of the struggles of our people. And then when they are asked about reparations, which they shouldn't be asked because it's none of their business, but when they're asked about reparations, they say, no, that's a handout. They need to work hard. It continues to say, white America believes they owe nothing because they believe themselves not to be their ancestors, but they are the beneficiaries of financial privileges handed over to them by their ancestors. It continues to say, having a clearer understanding of the history will make a difference, Joan Sawyer said. Oh, Lord have mercy. Continuing, the California Black Caucus plans to work with the legislature, which will not present its recommendations to Governor Gavin Newsom until early 2024. Between now and then, the caucus will solicit insight and ideas from the public to help influence those voting on reparations for Black Californians. Some of the best ideas we have got did not come from the elected officials, did not come from the academics, did not come from the bureaucrats, he said. They came from real people. And that's going to be the thing that will get us over when we start talking to our fellow legislators about why this is so important and why they need to vote yes on it. We're not going to get them all, but we don't need them all. We just need the majority in the assembly. And I think we have a good, clear path to that. Listen, all this stuff about education, all this stuff about, well, they just don't know how important it is, or how California enabled chattel slavery or racism. They know. All of them know. Nobody is stupid. This is the 21st century, the year 2023. Everybody knows that. Okay? They're not going to be like, wow, I just didn't know how bad racism was. Reparations, yeah. Nobody's going to do that. They all get it. They all know. The reason why they're saying no is because they're racist. Education is not going to save anything. Education is not going to be the thing that transforms their hearts and to make them find Christ or whatever you want to happen. That's not what's going to happen. The thing is, you're never going to get the majority of white society to vote yes on reparations. But the thing about it is, they shouldn't be asked. Okay, that's almost to a degree a form of slavery, putting them on this master parental role where the parents, the guardians, have to say yes to something for the children to get it. No, this is not up to them. They didn't say yes or no. There was no poll for us to sit up there and be slaves. There's no poll for them to pay back the damn money that is owed. They don't get an opinion on this. And if they did, it's not like them being educated isn't going to change their opinion. It's not like, well, I think it's taxpayers. That's their excuse. Let me talk to you about that. The whole, well, why should I didn't own slaves. Why should I have to pay with my taxes? That's their excuse. Okay, they know for a fact their taxes isn't going to increase with reparations. They know that because their taxes didn't increase when Biden was sending money to Ukraine, or Biden sending money to Afghanistan, or all of these other things, or the pandemic relief. Their taxes didn't increase then, so why would their taxes increase with reparations? They know their taxes will not increase with reparations. That's just their excuse, because they don't want to blatantly say, well, you know what, it's bad, but you shouldn't get money for it. They don't want to just blatantly say that, so they're trying to use their taxes as an excuse. Like, oh, well, that's just not fair. My taxes shouldn't go up. That's just their excuse. They don't have the right to say no. It's not nothing about education. Education isn't going to sway their minds, change their hearts, change their personality. It's not going to work. And even if it did, it's not our job to educate anybody. if it's their job to educate themselves. It's not our job to do that. It's our job to say, hey, this is what's going on. You can educate yourself and be okay with it, or you cannot and be mad. But either way, it's going to happen whether you like it or not. Not that we got to educate you so you can like it, so we can be on board. Damn all that. Brothers and sisters, I want to know what you guys think in the comments section below. What do you think about these polls? What do you think about the Congressional Black Caucus's journey to raise money to educate the white people who say no? What do you think about that? Let me know that in the comment section below. Also, you should be following me on my various social media platforms, which is Afro Elite on Instagram and The Afro Elite on Twitter. Before you guys go, please make sure that you guys like this, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. We're on our way to 10K, and that's because of all of what you guys are doing. If you guys like content like this, you guys want to see this channel grow, you want to see me bringing more people on, talking about more subjects, please make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel so we can reach our goal of 10K. Thank you guys very much. Now, with that being said, my brothers and my sisters, B1 salute to every single last one of you all, and you all have a good one.